I don't know about you, but I'm excited. I didn't even know I was excited until I heard that music, but now I'm really excited because the music made me very excited. Also, I'm sitting at the world's most important table about to do Ask or Tell Me Anything. You folks will be calling in 888-720-9677 or 888, what's the same number? 888-720-WNPR. And maybe you'll be excited, but you don't have to be excited. In fact, you could feel lethargic. We want to hear from the lethargic community. We don't screen them out. Maybe they probably prefer some other term than lethargic. Anyway, we'll find all of that out and Ask or Tell Me Anything right after the proverbial this. That actually could have been Graham Plattner's campaign theme song. You know, thought you should know who you're saying yes to. All right, so it's Ask or Tell Me Anything. You knew that, right? And the number to call is 888-720-9677. You knew that, right? You also knew that 888-720-WNPR is another way of expressing that number. This is not your first rodeo. It's not even a rodeo. And so before we go to the phones here, we already have Mike and Charlie. We'd love to have you call 888-720-9677. My very old friend, we're old friends. It's not that he's very old. David Edelstein was pointing out on the Facebooks today that I used to close my show when I was first starting out in radio. In 1992 on WTIC AM. I thought I needed a catchy way to a sign off. And so my sign off every day was, have a full neurological workup and inspect yourself for tics. And when I look at things now, I realize I was really ahead of my time, you know? I mean, yes, people knew that tics were a problem in 1992, or let's say the 90s. The tics were a problem in the 90s. In the 90s, it was mainly that the tics were using a lot of cocaine. But people knew that they were a problem, but now they're like a much bigger... It's like, I feel like the tics probably had a meeting. Because if the tics had a convention, how would anyone know? They had a meeting and they said, it's really not enough to be infecting people with this disease that people, half the people don't even think it's real. I mean, I'm not one of those people. I believe in Lyme disease. But, from the tics point of view, it's kind of like, well, nobody's really as scared of us as they could be. We have got to get into some real 28 days later stuff. And so now they have... And now it's like really the rational response to tics right now is to not leave your house. Never go anywhere because there are even... So it used to be the other thing about tics was that the only way that they could get you is like if you were walking along and you kind of brushed up against a stalk of grass that they happened to be on. But now they're like tics that will chase you. They will like, they will zero in on you. They'll get you in their crosshairs. They'll run after you. I don't know if they run. Whatever they do, they'll chase you. They'll chase you and get on you, and they go really fast up you. And they don't give you Lyme disease anymore. They give you alpha-gal. They give you all the babesiosis. They give you all these very unlikely sounding syndromes, but they do give them to you, and you get really sick. So I mean, when I think about this, and I think like I own a dog, it's like I want to die or something. I mean, the tics are just going to get me. But I can live with that until I can't live with that anymore. All right, the number, 888-720-9677, 888-720-WNPR. We're going to begin, as we often do, with Mike from Woodbury, who understands the virtue, or at least the usefulness, of being first in line. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Colin. Well, just before I get to my topic, I just have to say that late last year, I got anaplasmosis, which is
that's another one of those. Yeah.
That's another one, and that is I don't recommend that you get that.
No.
It wasn't fun.
You look at its Yelp score; it's not good.
Yeah, right, exactly. But anyway, okay. So here's a phrase which I'm sure you know. This phrase your screener did not, because she's young. This is you have to be of a certain age to get this. Is what's the frequency, Kenneth?
Right, you have to have been conscious in 1986.
That's right.
When this happened. But anyway, continue.
Exactly. All right. So Dan Rather, the anchor of the CBS Evening News, is coming home at night on Park Avenue in October. I think it was October of '86, and these two well-dressed guys in their 30s come up behind him and say, "Kenneth, what is the frequency?" And he turns around. He says, "I'm Dan Rather. I work for CBS News." They attack him. They start beating him up, and they keep asking that question, "Kenneth, what is the frequency?" He rather bolts into the lobby of a nearby apartment building, and the super and the doorman see this, and they go crazy, and they jump on these guys. The two guys split. Okay, that's the end of it. The next night, Rather goes on TV at the very end of his broadcast. He says, I'm sure some of you have heard about this. I was attacked in the streets of New York. Thank you for your cards and letters. I'm fine. I just had a couple of scrapes and bruises. That's all I ever knew about this. But apparently there's more to the story. In 1994, a guy named William Tager walks up to NBC News, to like 30 Rock, and goes to the stagehand. He says, "Your network is sending signals to my brain. I'm from the future, and you got to stop this." And the guy says, "Oh, sir, I'm sorry, you got to leave." Guy leaves, comes back 20 minutes later with a gun, shoots the stagehand, kills him. So he's immediately arrested, and they get him for manslaughter, not murder, because he's obviously has severe mental problems. So later, years later, he's like 20 years, in prison or something like that. A couple of years later, he's talking to the psychiatrist, and he says, I'm one of the guys, that attacked Dan Rather on Park Avenue, and he says, "Well, who's Kenneth? What was that all about?" He says, "Well, Kenneth was Kenneth Burroughs, the vice president of the future civilization that I'm from." And they say, "Oh, well, okay, very good. But you know what? It wouldn't hurt to show Dan Rather a picture of this guy." And they do. And he says, "Absolutely, that is one of the guys that attacked me," right? But there's more. There's a guy named Kenneth Schaefer, who was like this inventor. And he figured out a way in the 80s, at the height of the Cold War, to access Soviet broadcasts, from television broadcasts, all kinds of news, entertainment, everything. And of course, nobody in the West had ever seen this. So he was able to set something up at Columbia University where people could come and see this stuff. And one night, the night that he was attacked, Dan Rather went and saw this stuff. And then he's attacked later. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so one of the theories is that Kenneth Schaefer, the inventor, and Rather left Columbia at the same time, and so these attackers thought that Dan Rather was Kenneth Schaefer, and they were like spies, Russian spies or something. And they say, "What is But who knows if any of that is true?" But
I hadn't heard that one. I'm not sure how much seriousness I attached to it. Obviously,
it's actually on it's not just on one source. It's in news articles. Apparently, it actually did happen.
But I question whether that necessarily connects to what happened to Rather.
Oh no, of course not. No, and of course not.
We did get an REM song out of it.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
We did get. Let me just say this: as somebody who had a certain amount, not a lot, but a certain amount of contact with Dan Rather over the years, because I used to work at a CBS-owned station, and one of the things was that they would call you up and say, "Would you like to have Dan Rather on, because we're going to make him available to some of the affiliates and stuff." And then he would come out, and he would always be very nice, and then you would get a handwritten, or at least a hand signed note on really nice stationery afterwards from Dan Rather, thanking you for having him on your show. Which I sort of thought, really, is that who should be thanking who? But my experiences with him in general have always been this really kind of. He's kind of the way you want somebody like that to be. I saw him on one kind of small by invitation own panel during the 2004 Democratic National Convention, where he was with Judy Woodruff and Peter Jennings and Tom Brokaw. Is that everybody? Yeah. It was sort of the four major anchors. And Rather was the only person comfortable telling the truth about some of the things that were going wrong in the broadcast industry. And I'll tell you one more Rather story, because it's my favorite one. It almost moves me to tears when I think about it. So all of these guys, they used to go on the Don Imus show, even though Don Imus show wasn't like when he got in all that trouble. That wasn't the first time that happened. That was a daily occurrence, that kind of thing. But everybody went on the show anyway because it was very popular, and Imus is very smart. And Imus, his whole approach to guests was to try to wind them up about stuff. And so Rather's on the show, and it's the day after NBC has announced that they've signed Tom Brokaw to a record-setting deal for being a TV primetime news anchor or evening news anchor. And so Imus is trying to needle Rather about this. He's trying to get under his skin about the fact that Brokaw has this deal. And without missing a beat, Rather said, I knew Tom Brokaw's father. He's a man who worked with his hands and a fine man. And when I saw that about Tom, I just thought it is a shame that Mr. Brokaw is not alive anymore, because he would have been so proud that his son got this record-setting contract. And I thought, what a class act he is. Jeez. Right. To me, I know he had a little rough period there with the Alabama National Guard stuff. But, overall, it's really a damned impressive career. And here he is, he's like 94, and he's still doing stuff, I mean, he's not playing pickleball. So anyway, yeah. But the reason I mentioned all that was there was always this kind of idea that he was a little weird. And so that when this Kenneth thing happened, the reaction of some people was he must have. Happen. Yeah, it didn't happen. Yeah. He imagined it. Nobody said, what's the frequency, Kenneth? That's some weird Dan Rather thing. So it was just kind of, interesting also, which, as you point out, it did happen.
Well, what Trump should do is he should say, if you vote so that we hold both houses of Congress, I am going to release what the frequency is.
We don't need any more of that kind of thinking. We have enough of that kind of thing going on, Mike. All right, so let's go to we'll go to Helen, and then to Charlie, and then obviously to you if you call 888-720-9677, 888-720-WNPR. The format is you can ask or tell me anything. Oh my God, Helen, you're in some kind of windstorm in your car, and your car is circling up in the air, being sucked up into a vortex. No? You're okay?
No.
Okay,
not
good.
the vortex. I'm good.
Okay. So what's on your mind?
Basically, it's healthcare. I want to know what you thought of the strike in Massachusetts. The nurses going on strike, and I worked in healthcare for about 35, 40 years, and it is so bad. It's like it's scary to have anybody in the hospital or in a skilled facility or anything like that. So,
and tell me why for you it was so bad.
I loved what I did for years. It was great. It wasn't perfect, but it was really, I felt like it was patient centered. Mm-hmm. Now I feel like it's a business. I feel like, you're always working short staffed, and what they expect you to do, they tell you do the best you can. Then when something happens, it's your fault.
Yeah, I mean, I can say that having had two people very close to me in the hospital for really long periods of time in 2020 and 2021, one realizes very quickly that nurses are the heart, soul, and central nervous system of any hospital. And you know, if you don't have good nurses, you don't have good outcomes. And
it's everybody. I was a respiratory therapist and a nurse, and the CNA. Like, everybody is so important.
Yep.
And I feel like part of the problem too is these bigger hospitals swallowing up these other. Like in Connecticut, we have Yale and we have Harvard Health. So it's kind of monopolized. You know, it's a big difference, I feel like, from community hospital when it was community to big organization, you know.
Yeah, and this is, Chris Murphy has been on the show talking a little bit about this too, about how, in fact, sort of capitalism has taken over healthcare, and that it's being run as a for-profit enterprise. I mean, right across the street from us is St. Francis Hospital. That was started by nuns. It was like literally started by a group of nuns who felt that, you know, we needed, you know, they weren't thinking about, you know, how they could make seven-figure salaries. They felt it important as part of their mission to provide healthcare. And that is a quaint memory at this point. I do feel as though, you know, actually, I can kind of link it to stuff that's going on in the news. And I'm not suggesting that any of these other countries are intrinsically better or without any problems or anything like that. But every time that, you know, this social democracy stuff comes up and then people start yelling about communism, which is not the same thing. But then you look at these Nordic, you know, the Nordic model countries, where in fact their healthcare is not a for-profit enterprise, or I mean, I'm sure it exists in various corners of that ecosystem for profit. But basically, the understanding is everybody should be getting healthcare, and I know there are waiting times and stuff like that. But yeah, these days, I think most of us have the experience of dealing with physicians in particular who are on a clock, you know. And they might be they are usually perfectly good people and competent people. They didn't design the system, but they know they've got 15 minutes or whatever it is.
Right.
And that's just not enough typically. I mean, one of the things, particularly if it's a patient you've never seen before, you need a few minutes just to get to know this person, figure out who is this person. You know, you go ahead.
All right. I think the big problem too is I feel like, because what happened in my experience, it was going that way. It was not working. It was broken. But COVID just demolished. Just like it was a bomb and it's like people, like, you can't get staff because, you know, who wants to go to work and stress that by trying to do your job, you don't have enough help and you can't, and then you're going to get blamed for it, or like it's just. You know, I think I have PTSD from years of healthcare, and
no one would blame you if you did. Yeah, I think another thing that happened during COVID was that nurses migrated away from the hospital setting and towards, you know, other stuff where, like, you know, maybe working in a colonoscopy facility or something like that, where, you know, it's not like the pit every day.
Or there's no loyalty. They went, and I don't blame them. They went because all these contracts came, the travel contracts.
Yep.
And why work at a place that you know doesn't appreciate you, and you just go for a travel contract and make lots more money? It's just, the whole system is crazy, and I don't think people get how dangerous it is when you have a loved one in a hospital or a nursing home or any kid, that you need to advocate for them. And my heart breaks for people that don't have anyone to advocate.
You are. I would 100% agree with you about that. It's something that actually we did pretty strategically in our family, ranging from my daughter-in-law. The first thing she would do if the patient was moved to a new hospital room, she would decorate the room with family pictures, like, you know, big poster-sized things with 20 family pictures. The message being, yes, there are people around. And then we were just around a lot, and a couple of times, you know, we eventually moved that particular member of our family. I'm trying not to violate anybody's privacy, but to a better hospital. But even there, you know, we caught stuff sometimes just because we were in the room and nobody else was. So, yeah, you've got to do that. Go ahead.
There's one more thing I want to stress. There's another problem that rarely anybody answers, and that's the state. the whole system of calling these nursing homes or hospitals accountable is kind of a joke, because I feel like the state gives these unrealistic expectations. And so everything has to be documented. You spend half your time documenting where you should be doing. And I feel like as long as things are documented, that's where the state focuses, and they don't look at the staffing.
And I think that partially also creates a system where the providers are spending more time looking at their laptops than they are looking at their patients, because they've got to make sure that all this stuff gets entered. No, I'm 100% with you. It's not a good system. And people, I mean, here in an election year, the people who are talking about making it a better system and talking honestly about correcting some of those flaws, those are people who deserve to be listened to. All right, our number, 888-720-9677, 888-720-WNPR. Let's go to Charlie and see what is on Charlie's mind. Charlie is in Glastonbury. Hi, Charlie.
Hi, Colin. Thanks for taking my call. So I have a couple of things. One is I'm subscribed to this NPR Plus music podcast, New Music Fridays. Mm-hmm. I don't know if, and I didn't realize this was kind of like a perk, from subscribing. But have you heard of it? First of all, that's one question.
I mean, the title is not totally unfamiliar to me, but I certainly haven't listened to it. So this is sort of a big passion for me. So I'm interested to know a little bit more.
Yeah. So like on this last Friday show, which was July 10th, they have 5 albums they review, and then they do this thing called the lightning round, where they play lots of music in a hurry and stuff, and kind of overview it. And they usually have a host, Stephen Thompson, I guess, and he chats with different people from around the country. But it's very interesting, and it's a great way to sample some music. So I would say if you haven't heard of it and you can get it, subscribe to it. It's good. I have another point. I've been reading a very interesting book. It's called Escape from Capitalism and Intervention. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's an economic book that came out by Clara Matee. I hope I'm saying her name correctly. And it's a good economic book to consider what to do. Why do we have to have capitalism as our main system of economic?
Well, yes, this connects pretty well to our previous caller. The whole conversation about capitalism driving our healthcare system. So yeah, those are both good recommendations, Charlie, and I definitely want to check out the music thing. I should say a little bit quickly, I should remind people, although you're about to hear a very old song, but it's a brand new recording of an old song. But what we do on Mondays typically is, as much as possible, we use newly released things. So we opened the show with Yes by Lucy Woodward, which is pretty new. And you're going to hear, as I say, what we do is we feature on these Monday shows as much as possible new music, which forces me to listen to new music, which I think is a healthy thing to do. All right, let's take a little break. We'll come back. We'll do more of Ask or Tell Me Anything.
I ought to cross you off my list, but when you come knocking at my door, fate seems to give my heart a twist, and I come running back for more. I should hate you, but I guess I love you. You've got me in between the devil and the deep blue sea. The devil and the deep, the devil and the deep, the devil and the deep blue sea.
3 years on the local circuit, played twice at the county fair, and the second time Ben, our friend who worked the business end, said a guy from a label was there. There were 2 more like him at the next show, staring us down like hawks. And there was love in the air, and all the money was there, and we were going on tour with Candlebox. Acid-washed blue jeans you could ever want underneath the bus. Sound guy, schedule guy, driver, 3 bunks left for us. You sleep like a baby when you're still young and dumber than a bag of rocks. 25 tight minutes, 7 nights a week, 8 weeks without a break for Candlebox.
And well, this, by the way, that's the Mountain Ghost. I kind of love that. I love the concept of Candlebox. I hope it's a concept album. There's just that one song out right now. So it's Ask or Tell Me Anything. The number 720-9677, 888-720-WNPR. I mean, one of the joys of these episodes, but also one of the hazards of these episodes, it's a veritable Scylla and Charybdis to do a little forced Odyssey reference. I guess the Scylla and Charybdis were both bad. One of them wasn't a joy. Anyway, one of the joys and one of the hazards is, like, you just never know what people are going to... it would have made sense for me to be ready in case anybody wanted to talk about the misfortunes of people named Graham. Lindsey Graham, of course, we found out yesterday morning, died. And then, Graham Plattner has died politically. And I just thought, there'll be a lot of calls about those things. Nope, not at all. But that's fine. Call up about whatever you want about. That's the whole thing. 888-720-9677. 888-720-WNPR. Because you never know. You can't control what kinds of thoughts come into your head. For example, right before the show went on the air today, I don't really know how this happened, but I started wondering if birds ever have difficult births. You watch All Creatures Great and Small, you know that animals can have breech births and the veterinary's got to come out and all that kind of stuff. But you don't really... Did they just always just have an egg and it works just fine? Are there bird doulas who come and sit up with the other bird and say, this egg's coming out, don't worry, I can see part of it right now? Or birds just pop them out? I don't know why that actually bothered me suddenly, but it did. All right, so anyway, 888-720-9677. You don't have to call up about that. Unless you actually are a bird doula. If you sat up with a chicken, through the night and kept the home fires burning, then you can call up. But other than that, we don't need to pursue that. 888-720-WNPR. We'll go to Rob in Roxbury. Hi, Rob.
Hey, Colin. How you doing?
Just fine.
I wanted to share something I experienced this weekend, and it's basically calling back to my youth. In my youth, I was an MC at a coffee house in Cincinnati, Ohio. It was the early 70s neo-folk music. And I've been living in Roxbury for over 25 years, and I finally got off my butt, and I went to the Roxbury Pickin' and Fiddlin' contest. And you wouldn't expect to find bluegrass in Roxbury, Connecticut, but son of a gun, that show went on starting at 2 o'clock and went on until about 10. So I guess what I'm calling for is just to advocate that people go out and take advantage of live music in the outdoors in Connecticut. It's the festival season, and it was a fantastic time. I can't encourage it enough.
Hartford for years had this legendary Fiddle Fest that was run by an organization I think called Peace Train. But I mean, it was huge, and Bushnell Park would be full of people. Thousands of people would come to this thing, and it would go on for days. And I think it was sort of during a time where people often would take acid or mescaline or something. I think it may have made the fiddling seem to go by a little bit faster. But yeah, it was like a huge deal. And I should, as long as we're going to do that, let me say that tonight in Hartford, in Bushnell Park, the aforementioned Bushnell Park, Monday Night Jazz begins. And I think it's a women's jazz night, and I'm fairly sure that Jen Allen, one of the pillars holding up our whole jazz enterprise here, one of the people who really, is one of our go-to people about jazz. I believe she is kind of the organizing force around the opening act. So yeah, I'm totally with you. Outdoor music, really fun, a whole different experience, and they're picking and fiddling out in Roxbury. It isn't really Roxbury is more known for like Arthur Miller and Alexander Calder and stuff like that, but it's good to know that they have bluegrass too. All right, here is Doris in Southbury. Once again, the number 888-720-9677, 888-720-WNPR. Hi, Doris.
Yeah, hi. I would like to talk about the requirements for becoming president. Currently, there are two basic requirements. You have to be at least 35 years of age, have to be born in the United States. And that's pretty much it. There's no other requirements. And, I mean, currently, any clown can throw their hat in the ring, and some already have. I'm just thinking that maybe it's time where we had additional requirements where people might have to pass a civics course so they understand about government, and maybe they should run for a lower office first so they understand what it means to run an election and negotiate with people if you win, and requirements that are more than what we have at this point.
Mine would be, I think they should be left-handed. Left-handed people are just smarter and better than right-handed people. I mean, we are a minority. We do most of the world's work in terms of sort of creativity and leadership. So I see no reason to entrust the fate of this nation to right-handed people. I'm sorry if you're right-handed. I mean, I don't mean this as a direct slur against you, but no.
Actually, I'm ambidextrous, so I don't know where that me.
Oh, Doris for president. Would you run for president?
I haven't.
No, would you though? Like, let's say let's say I were willing to throw all of my tremendous weight behind you, my persuasive abilities behind you in 2028. Would you be willing to run for president as an ambidextrous person?
As an ambidextrous person, well, I probably could do some things better than others, but
right away, there's a slogan: she could do some things better than others.
But currently, I feel I'm not qualified because.
See, that's the problem. The people who, we're back to Yeats, right? The best lack all conviction, and the worst are full of passionate intensity. The worst, I always think they would be great presidents. First of all, I do want to take what you're saying seriously, and if anybody else wants to call in about it, 888-720-9677, 888-720-WNPR, I'd be very interested in pursuing this. I mean, we have to say, for starters, it would take a constitutional amendment. And constitutional amendments are essentially impossible at this point. We have an unamendable constitution, which, to my mind, is the single biggest problem. And if we were to try to amend the Constitution with regard to those things, it would really be a firestorm too, because people would have very different ideas about what the new requirements should be and who's going to write up the civics test and all that kind of stuff. So it would have to be a norm rather than an actual rule change,
Well, okay, but actually, currently the requirements are actually in an article. It's not any type of an amendment. So
but you have to be able to amend the article. I mean, that's what amendments do. They change the article.
Tweak the article so that it requires a few more.
Yeah, but you can't just tweak the article. That's an amendment. I mean, there's no way to tweak the article without going through the amendment process.
Okay.
So
see, now I need a course in civics. So
now I'm less sure that I'm supporting you for president, but that's okay. These are things. It's It's 2026. We'll iron this stuff out now, Doris. And by the time the debates are starting, you'll be ready. You'll be totally ready at that point. But that's the problem. So the only way that it could be changed would be in terms of our normative system. And our normative system has actually gone in the other direction. I mean, I did a column about this a few weeks ago. There's actual, and I would put Graham Plattner a little bit into this. There's sort of a preference for people who don't know stuff. I mean, look who's running Health and Human Services right now. A person with no medical training whatsoever and some wackadoodle ideas. Somebody who would just have been unacceptable, not even up for discussion, unacceptable, 20, 25 years ago. And unacceptable, not just because of his wackadoodle ideas, but because he has no qualifications for the job whatsoever. He's not even remotely qualified. But I think that's a strength these days. I think people show up, and the best thing that they can do is try to persuade you. I refer to this as negative jeopardy, like that your wrong answers actually increase your money total. And I think that's where we are right now. So our norms are moving. I'm sorry to give you all this bad news. And I want you to have a wonderful ambidextrous day and have a cup of coffee while writing a memo to yourself. And, just glory in the fact that you're ambidextrous, even as civilization degenerates into sex and food, hurtling towards a necropolis. All right, what we should do is take a break. We'll take a break. On that uplifting note, we'll take a break. 888-720-9677, 888-720-WNPR. We will be back.
Past the veil, a hand reaches out, hold me close. There's something about this heart that I love, this warmth here with you in the blue. I have found it in the moon's light. I'm contorted, so I unwind. Help me stay here, past my comforts, where the truth really lies, deep in the
And time to say some thank yous. Dylan Reyes, the maestro, is our technical producer. The Isaac Moss Report is producing this particular episode. And Robin Doyen Aiken, who was not particularly old in 1986 and therefore did not know what was said to Dan Rather about Kenneth, what is the frequency, is screening calls today. And that's all there is to really say about all of that, other than thank you to all three of those people. Our number, 888-720-9677. That's 888-720-WNPR. You can ask or tell me anything, hence the name of these episodes. Hi, John. John from the People's Republic of Mansfield is calling. Hi, John.
Hello.
Hello.
So your comment about constitutional conventions got my ire up, and I'm like, we got to do something like that. But then I realized that a constitutional convention would be like flower arranging, in that if you mess with the flowers too much, it just turns into a big disaster. So how can we change the structure of our system without blowing it up, and yet try to achieve some level of competency, of integrity, of getting money out of politics so we know that our vote counts a vote and not against dollars? How the heck can we do this in a real life way? I'm looking for you for the answers. No pressure.
Yeah, no, if I knew the answer to that, well, I would still be sitting here at the world's most important table, but people would pay more attention to me. No, I mean, look, the problem, and this is something that I think Justice John Paul Stevens wrote about too. It's too hard to amend the Constitution, which is why we almost never do it. And I'd be surprised if I see another constitutional amendment in my lifetime, because, there are all these sort of 2/3 and 3/4 type of thresholds that you have to clear for this stuff. And 2/3 of, state legislatures, they don't agree about anything. There's nothing. It would have to be like a comet heading towards Earth or something that just completely menaced everybody. I don't know what kind of amendment would be helpful in that situation.
That's the level that it would take.
It would take, yeah. I mean, there just isn't, we don't have that kind of consensus, which is why, and this is going to, actually, I'll wait, Maria's going to bring this up, so I'll hang on to that. But it's sort of why you can't abolish the Electoral College. There's something you can do, but you can't abolish the Electoral College. It's why it seems like a namby-pamby answer even to me. But the only way to change stuff is sort of normatively and through participation in democracy. And if you can theoretically, the way things are written, if you can get a lot of people who believe what you believe to participate very actively in this democracy or in this republic, you can see change. And we've seen change. Things have happened that, I mean, I mentioned this, I think, a few weeks ago, but I remember advocating for gay marriage on the air in the late 1990s, maybe. People thought I was out of my mind. You know, it was a much more conservative radio station, but people would call up and say, well, that's just impossible. What are you even talking about? Gay marriage? Well, I mean, gay marriage now is, you know, I believe the Secretary of the Treasury currently in the Trump administration has a gay marriage. So, I mean, it's totally normalized now. So things do change. They really do. And they often change for the better, too. I don't see in our current dysfunctional environment the capacity to change for the better. But we have to assume that this is a treatable condition and that we will get back to it. But no, structure, very real, unless you can find a workaround. And we are going to talk with the next caller about a possible workaround. But
our president is the king of workarounds.
Yeah, no, not that kind of workaround. But anyway,
in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. I don't know. I wish I had a better answer than that. But this... unintentionally,
we'll keep hammering away.
Yeah, the framers unfortunately built a system that seemed like it would be more amenable to change than it actually has been. And, you know, for a while, amendments were a thing. We have amendments. We can't have nice amendments anymore. But we used to have amendments. I don't, you know, given everything we've lived through in the last couple of decades, it's kind of hard to see them coming back. But who knows? A lot of things come back. Bell bottoms, you know, for example. All right. I don't even know if that really happened. Marie in East Hartford is next. By the way, our number is 888-720-9677. That's 888-720-WNPR. Hi, Marie.
Hello, Colin.
What's on your mind?
Hello.
Hi, I hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, hi, Colin. Hey, I might have missed a little because I was talking to Robin.
Yeah.
But we are at a point where we have to go to one person, one vote in this country. We have got to get rid of the Electoral College. It was put up originally to be unfair to people. And now, you know, the president goes around saying, oh, the whole country voted for me. And we've had more than one election where the person who won the national vote was not the person that got elected.
Yeah.
We have the Supreme Court abdicating their power and the legislature doing the same thing. And I think there should be time limits on the Supreme Court because back in the day when the Constitution was made, people were not living to 100.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there should be time limits. They did it back in Greece many, many years ago, and there should be time limits on legislators also.
Yeah, I think we mean term limits, but yes, I know what you mean.
Term limits.
Yeah,
time limits.
Time limits would be like you can only talk for 30 minutes or something.
Yeah, well, at this point, maybe.
Maybe that would be good too. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, so the only way that this can happen, that I'm aware of anyway, is through the NPV movement, the National Popular Vote movement. And the way that I'm doing this from memory right now, so apologies to NPV people if I screw it up, but basically the way that it works is that if a sufficient number of states amend their constitutions to say that they will give all of their electoral votes to whomever wins the popular vote, then you could, in fact, go around the Electoral College. I mean, first of all, you'd be in court.
That's still a screw job. That's still not. But I think we have to keep staying out there and protesting.
Well, wait a minute. Why is it, to use your charming phrase, why is it a screw job?
Because you don't have the same reflection. It should be one person, one vote.
Yeah, well,
and that I believe would make people feel like their vote really means something.
Well, I mean, theoretically, NPV is one person, one vote. In other words, this is the states all agreeing to give their electoral votes to the candidate who won the most, won the most votes. So it is one person, one vote. It's the states agreeing to ratify that. So I don't think it's a
now I'm understanding. Pardon me for being so frank.
That's all right.
Hey,
that's
if the president can use it,
absolutely. Actually, the president has lowered our standards in so many different ways, and that is merely one of them. So anyway, that's the way to do it. And I don't know how many. There's somebody from NPV who's going to call up now, but the show will be over. And they'll tell me there are like a whole bunch of states have already agreed to do this. I don't think they're over their threshold. Well, they're not over their threshold. And what, if it ever happens, then there'll be Supreme Court cases up the kazootie about it. But it's the only way to do it. Could I just say, let me just say this, just because I want to take a minute or two. Because I was thinking about this last Friday, that to an outsider looking in, our system, particularly the thing that might save us now, is insane. And what I mean by that is that every state controls its own voting process. So, like, the rules for Connecticut are, in fact, different from the rules of Virginia. And the rules of Virginia are very different from the rules of Iowa. This gets especially true when you look at the means by which candidates are selected. Like, we have this, this kind of hybrid convention system where, I mean, there are plenty of states now that just have direct primaries. So there's a primary, and whoever wins the primary, that's the nominee. I mean, more or less. We have this thing where a state convention picks the nominee, and then other candidates, particularly if they've gotten 15% of the convention vote, are at liberty to try to overturn the results of the convention. But the convention has primacy. Then you have to try to overturn it. And if you didn't get 15% of the vote of the convention, I'm looking at you, Ruth Fortune, in the 1st District, you have to go out and get signatures. Ruth Fortune, to get on and she did do this, to get on the 1st District congressional ballot in the Democratic primary in August, had to get 4,000 signatures. Like, I could barely stand to go out and get 14 signatures. I would be spent by the end of that process. 4,000. And you can't just get 4,000 because 2,000 of your signatures inevitably turn out to be robots or people who don't understand the process or whatever, so you have to get like a lot more. But that's not the system in other states. Other states have completely different systems, which is wacko. If you heard about a country that did that, you'd think, oh, really? Italy does that? Well, that's nuts. Like every region has a different system. But that's what we have. We have essentially 50 different systems. And it is a really stupid thing, except it might save us in 26 and 28 because it's really, really hard to rig that process or create kind of save act type rules. First of all, you got to go to court and prove that you can impose your Trumpy ideas on all 50 of these systems. And I mean, that's number one. And a lot of them are going to sue for relief. And it might save us. But that doesn't mean it isn't a cuckoo system. All right, so we've got a minute left. I don't know, Jim, is this a 60-second story? And does it have any bad words in it? Does it contain the term screwjob at all? Does it contain the term screwjob? Because I think
no, nothing.
Okay, fine.
I'm going to blow smoke for you here, Colin. Yeah, since am I on?
Yeah, you're on.
Oh yeah. I think of Imus all the time. I always ask my wife, what do you think Imus would think of that? He was irreverent, and he was who he was. I remember the 500 hamburgers. I'm that old. But, since Imus went off the radio, I enjoy you more than anybody else.
Oh, that's so sweet. Well, yes. I mean, the thing about Imus was, and there was quite a bit about the show that was objectionable and that pushed the envelope. And on matters of race, I think he makes us all, at this point, as the young folks say, cringe. He was pretty cringe, but he was very, very smart. And so everybody wanted to go on that show. And I mean, what used to kill me is Joe Lieberman at the crest of his time policing morality and trying to, get video games and rock and roll records controlled and stuff. He would go on the Imus show to deplore the decline in American morality, and the minute he hung up, Imus would go right back to orchestrating the decline of public morality. Anyway, that's a tale for another day. Now it's time for us to say goodbye. Thanks for listening. 'Cause I wanna share this moment so